I'm here today with Fred Wilson, who will be looking through our collections and with some of the objects that he finds, doing a workshop on creativity in making exhibitions for our exhibition development students. So Fred, tell us the kinds of things that you look for when you go into collections and mine them.
Well, I'm never really looking for anything specific when I do this sort of thing. I'm sort of generally scanning what there is to see how they coalesce and how they come together, and that's usually the first thing I do, is really get an overview, and it gives me a little sense of what the place is like. Maybe not in a sense of what it is today, but what it has been and how it's what it's become. And then when I'm looking for specific things, once I have a sense of it, I can choose things that make sense for that place. And so I do that in order to not just sort of fall back on patterns from before, just saying, looking and choosing things that I like, you know, from or have been successful in previous visits to collections. So I can hang back and just sort of see what's there. Usually things sort of pop out, but you never know. Sometimes it takes a little while.
And how do you draw from the expertise of the staff that works with those collections?
Well, it's a very kind of, I wouldn't say collaborative, but very much I get involved with the staff because they know the collections much better than I would, even things that, you know, might be familiar to me. It's very informal. Usually I ask staff what, you know, about things that I have questions in my mind about, what there's there, and just sort of let them kind of tell me about them, fill in the gaps, and as we get to know each other, to tell stories and about what they know about these things. And then also, I learn from that a lot, not only about the objects, but about the place, about them, and a little bit how these collections can be formed. And that also makes more complex the project that I'll end up doing, and also helps me decide what to do. I mean, I don't really ask what are your best objects. Well, actually, it's not true. I may ask that. That's just to get a sense of what those there think are the best objects, and then I take that into consideration and choose things that make sense for me as far as all these aspects that I've mentioned.
How would you define creativity in making exhibitions for you and your work?
Well, first and foremost, I consider myself an artist, and so creating an exhibition is a slightly different thing for me than when I was a curator. I sort of see the difference, because what I'm doing, it's kind of a meandering process. I'm trying to go in tabula rasa and just look at things and talk to people and let these objects and work speak to me. And it's from that I develop an exhibition or a project. And often what I do is, doesn't start with a theme, it just starts with particular intriguing objects and juxtapositions of objects. And as I'm in a place long enough, I begin to understand the place and its relationship with those collections. And so the project is usually there are multiple layers. There's the information about the objects that I'm choosing, that is very important to be known. There's the history of those objects within the collection and how they relate to the museum, but then there are other ramifications for how I collect them, how they relate to a particular moment in time, the place that the collection is, a physical place, and the town, or the city, or the state, or the country, and then how museologically I can bring out some of these ideas using the language of museum. And so, there's just various layers, and so people from various backgrounds understand the work in various ways because of what they bring to it. Museum people have a particular way of reading what I do, which is very exciting for me because that's the language that I'm working with. And so it's like an insider kind of engagement that museum people have with what I do. But everybody gets a certain something out of it because I'm really thinking about all these different layers of audience and in the various environments. So
Your work is referred to as conceptual art, as installation art, as interventions, and institutional critique. What term do you think is most appropriate and why?
Well,
Or terms,
all those
of
things are, that's all of it. And I'm glad of that. I specifically say that I'm not a curator. I am, but if when I'm in institutions, I try to sort of make it clear that I'm an artist, not a curator, because curators have certain ways of doing things that perhaps they have to do them that way because they have clients, they have grants to fulfill, and I don't have any of those things. I'm just, an artist walking in the world, and my world happens to be the museum. So it gives me a lot more latitude, a lot more freedom to do whatever I want, and I'm not bound by peers or, would say, professional practices of museums. But I actually I am very cognizant of the care of objects, and so I don't really do anything against that. But I may do things that are just very unusual with those things, barring them getting damaged in any way. So it frees me up to be able to do whatever I want to do. So I consider myself an artist. I keep it very plain and simple that way. And so all those titles, I think, fit really well, except if you were to say, often some people say I'm a guest curator, and I'm fine with that if it opens the doors and lets me do a project. But in fact, I don't really consider myself a curator.
Thank you, Fred.